Hello, hello again. This video is going to be on uh, what it was like for me personally um, living as a trans man. So I want to preface this by saying that these are just my personal experiences that I've gone through for the 2 years, for the 2 years of me presenting as male. And I say that because this by no means represents what it's like to be like a cis man or a real transgender man who's been presenting as male for a lot longer than I was, toting around. I'm making this video mostly to answer a question that non-trans people tend to have because they want to know how the other side lives and how they're treated. And the things that I say in this video, I don't intend for it to be seen as sexist or that I'm being like absolute in what I'm trying to say. It's just these were my experiences, personal experiences, and observations. So I want to start by listing off what testosterone did to me psychologically, and it kind of goes into why socially this is what happened to me. So I'm like, it's gonna rain. It's gonna start raining soon. I know it. I can feel it. But yeah. So psychologically, I was generally pretty much less sensitive to certain things around me environmentally, and like I didn't take things as personally. I didn't perceive certain slights that other people were trying to like either silently or very not okay, a little bit less blatantly, but kind of like covertly trying to like get at me in some sort of way, whatever it was. I just didn't notice it. I felt like there was like this kind of a barrier between my emotions from pre-T to uh, what I was whatever whatever I was doing. You know, there was a barrier between that, and I couldn't exactly like just sit by myself in silence and just connect to it. I just couldn't really do it, which is why I think uh, men generally don't really connect on certain levels with other people. Kind of. I'm not saying that men can't feel, but that's that's kind of how it was, if that makes any sense. And with that disconnect, absolutely, when I was on testosterone, I like barely cried. Like maybe once a month did I ever cry. And even then, I don't think it was even once a month. And then when I was back on estrogen, it was just like, I don't know, a fly gets killed or something. I'm like, or just something. I had more of an incentive to cry, whereas on testosterone, I just wasn't, just because I was disconnected from it. And I think because of that disconnect of emotions, it was like I think there was also kind of a lack of empathy in a way. And I'm not saying like all people with testosterone have just they're psychopaths or something. Like I'm saying that people with higher levels of testosterone tend to, I think it is starting to rain. I forgot what I was saying. They just don't tend to. They just have more mental barriers on certain things. So for that, like I was a lot more fearless than when I had been on just estrogen, especially when detransitioning. I felt more afraid of certain things like horror movies. and and in that same vein, not just horror movies, but like taking more risks, like jaywalking. I was so tough. I jaywalked. But no, I mean, I had more courage to do certain things, like skip class. Whereas before testosterone, I would be like, no, well, I'm gonna get caught. And with that lack of empathy too, there was like I couldn't really get in touch with people as deeply as I would have wanted to. Yeah, that's basically what it was kind of like psychologically, and it pretty much just boils down to a disconnect from feelings, where women have it way better connected than men do, generally speaking. So this leads me to, kind of bad segue, but this leads me to what it was like socially. And of course there's a difference, but it's not like a, oh my gosh, I was the interloper and I saw how the other side lived. It was just kind of like, this is just how men kind of treat each other. It's not really much of a secret. My first point is that the people that I surrounded myself with were, and the people that I observed as well, and also just in general, even on TV and stuff, like, this is just kind of how what men sort of seem to do, is they tend to want to be the funniest person in the room. And with that, there's a competition too. They want to be the funniest. So they're kind of competing to be the comedian, the best comedian in the room. And if if someone or two people were like really funny, then they were like they were like on the top of the hierarchy, or the pyramid of, the hierarchy. Uh, they would be seen with more authority in a way, because when you're really funny as a guy, you're more likely to, number one, get the opposite sex attracted to you, and also getting the same sex attracted to you in a platonic friendship way, because a lot of men base their friendships on how funny the other guy is, completely disregarding anything else really about them. It's just something I've noticed, not just even being on testosterone and presenting as a man, but just like in general. That's just what I've noticed. That's what guys kind of do. Not all men, but a lot of them do. Yeah, and because, like, I have a different brand of humor, and I had a different brand of humor. Mine's just really silly, I guess. I don't really know how to describe my humor, but whatever it is, it wasn't taken very, like, with open arms, I guess. It was like I could get maybe a couple chuckles at most, or maybe once every now and again the whole group could laugh, but it wasn't like a daily occurrence, whereas these other top comedians would do. So because of that, I was like, here's the top pyramid, and I'm down here. I was with the plebeians, if you will. So therefore, I didn't get as many friends. I didn't get as much authority points. I didn't. I was just on the bottom tier, so I didn't get the as much respect, I guess. Uh, that's how I perceive it as. It's not an ultimate truth. It's just that is mostly my perception. And being one of the most unfunniest people in the group, that shows inferiority and like kind of a submissive kind of nature, which made like this one guy in particular. Uh, I can't say he hated me for a fact. I could tell he just disliked me, because he was the only person who just kind of pick on me. And I'm not saying, he picked on me, he's such a bully, but it was just like, I mean, at the time, I wasn't like, oh wow, my self esteem's going down and my confidence is going down too. It was just like, you're kind of being a dick. Go away. But I also wasn't like, let's fight. Let's fight, bro. I was just like, okay, whatever. I'm just gonna keep on living my life and doing what I do. But uh, one of the things he would kind of do is just, I don't really remember what he did. I just knew he had like this posture and behavior of like, if I said something, he would make fun of it. I don't have any examples. I don't really remember, and I think it's a good thing that I don't remember. But like I was very much into drawing and then showing it off to my friends, and then he would see it, and then he would just kind of lightly make fun of it, and it was just like, what? I mean, who knows? Maybe he was secretly gay and was just doing that thing that some men do, where they're like, well, I'm gonna beat you up because I'm gay, you know? Could have been that. I have no idea. He definitely tried asserting his dominance with trying to make fun of me and trying to be superior with his joking. So that's, yeah. And with that, this competition, as I've already implied, there's competition amongst men, and I'm not a competitive person, so it kind of like fell on deaf ears for me. And because of that, I wasn't like, I gotta compete to be the funniest or whatever. I gotta compete to be the loudest. They expected me, presenting as male, to be more tough, and that wasn't something I did. Like, I did some things that would be considered a little bit tough, but it wasn't like a constant personality trait that I exuded all the time. And with that, it's like men tend to be less forgiving toward other men. So if like a man messes up, he flubs on something, he's less likely going to be forgiven for that. Like, you have to fight me, you draw your sword, sort of thing. And what makes me say that, for one example, is that I think it was like junior year or something, or the very beginning of senior year or whatever, and I was in the cafeteria. I think it was a very like beginning of the day, and I just like wound up, orbited into their atmosphere, to this group of like five guys or whatever that I'd never talked to before. But so I was with these guys, and uh, we were all like just joking around, doing whatever, and then whatever my joke was, one guy, one big guy, he had a drink in his hand. Whatever my joke was, I was like, I think I was like pretending to like smack his drink out of his hand, because that's what needed to be done with the context of the joke. and and I didn't know my own strength on testosterone, so it was like I accidentally, totally, completely smacked his drink out of his hand. It spilled all over the floor, and the next thing I know, I'm on the floor because he pushed me, and I'm sure it was just like a light push to him, but he's a big guy, so it's just like, and I'm a twig, and push, and I'm totally spread eagle on the floor. If I was presenting as a woman at that time, probably just would have been like, wow, wow, well, you accidentally spilled it on my drink, and then maybe got a little bit of a push or something. But he went full out, because a guy is more likely to be more aggressive toward another man. So, and that's how he saw me. So it totally makes sense why he reacted that way. But besides that, on a social level with around other men, and this applies to women too. It's like they saw me as a man, so they were gonna absorb me into their group, and they would trust me more, because that's what same-sex platonic people do. And same with women. They're like, they'll see a woman and they'll welcome her with open arms. A man maybe not as open, but they'll still like accept another man because it's just like, oh yeah, you understand me because I assume you grew up like I did in a way, so we kind of just get that. But even though I was accepted into it, and a lot of these guys were straight, it was like I'm very certain most of them, if not all of them, thought I was gay, which I guess technically I kind of was. And I know that some of them knew that I was trans because I told them, or because they could just tell. It's kind of easy to spot unless that person's been the opposite sex for like several years, then you wouldn't know. But for me, I think it was kind of easy because I mean, number one, my hands are very small, and number two, just the way I behaved clearly was pretty feminine and not in a gay, a feminine man. No offense against gay men. We all know there's the feminine gay man, but I didn't act like that because there's still something man about those dudes. But anyway, my point my point is, I think these people kind of pitied me and therefore kind of like treated me a little bit differently than if they were to treat another cis man. But I have no way of knowing because it's really mostly speculation. And then one of the things I really didn't like was I think it was either at the very beginning of taking testosterone or before, like pre-T, when I was definitely trying to present as male, but I didn't have testosterone going through me. Uh, People like scrutinized me more. There was like this one guy in like my geometry class, I think, and he was like, I don't know, he just like deliberately sits next to me and he's just like, "Do you have foreskin?" And me being like, I'm not a professional trans man. I don't know what is going on. I didn't know at the time what foreskin was. So I was like, I don't remember my response, but I said something to him that was like really, I guess, really funny to him. So he let that go. But it was definitely like questioning and being persistent on whether or not I had foreskin. It was just like, it definitely was like, it gave off this vibe of, are you really a dude? Because you're like, if you know what foreskin is, you're more likely to, because that's what a gender therapist was saying. Like, do you know what foreskin is? If you do, that must mean you are a guy. But yeah, in any case, people would scrutinize it. They're like, you know, and then they just try to piece things together and figure it out. Oh yeah, and then that kind of scrutiny, like, you know, made me panic a bit because it's just like I wanted to be stealth so badly. I wanted people to just see me as a guy, a cis guy, and just go with it. Changing the subject slightly, I wanted to mention dating, what it was like. So I I didn't date anybody pre-T, during T, uh, except for one time, but it was at the very, very end of taking testosterone and presenting as male. Pre-T and during testosterone, I had just mostly a bunch of crushes, and I don't know how many I had, but off the top of my head, but I knew all of them except for one was male, straight men. So, and the other the one that wasn't a straight man was well, I don't know her orientation, but it was a female. It was a girl. This one female crush, I guess, was very, very fleeting for me. I kind of pretty much did it because I kind of just wanted to experiment. I get mostly in my head, like, am I really attracted toward women? Can I actually do it, kind of thing? I don't know how long it went. I just know that I did it. And as it progressed, the days progressed, and I would see her, like, just, I wouldn't really feel anything because just, I'm not a lesbian, so, and I'm not bisexual, so there just wasn't anything there for me. And then, besides that, with all the guys, it sucked being a trans man because confessing to all my, well, not all of them, I think there was only 2 that I confessed to. It sucks because, they're straight men and they're not going to be attracted to a trans man, or let alone another cis man. But finally, when I did start actually dating somebody, it was exclusively online, and it was after I graduated high school, and we dated for like, I don't know, a couple months. Not too extremely long, maybe 3. So it only lasted 3 months, really, because I wasn't feeling anything. Because again, I'm not lesbian, I'm not bisexual, I'm just wasn't feeling it. And I mean, I don't think we're very compatible as friends either. So we just kind of went to the dirt. Pre-T, and when I was still identifying as female, women did generally approach me more frequently, and they would be more flirtatious and, just kind of want my attention more. But then as soon as I presented as male, all that interaction went away. All of it. And even, like, it was very rare, but once or twice, a guy would come up to me too, but not really. But presenting as male, totally gone. Absolutely. I think as presenting as male is more expected me to approach other people, not just women, but even guys too. I think that was expected of me. Gay guys never really approached me either, but if they knew I was trans, of course it makes sense that they wouldn't, because, they're probably not into somebody who's assigned female at birth, because they're not going to get the jibbly bits down there that they want. But also online, I went in as bisexual, and the only matches I really ever got was with gay men, and not once did I match with a girl ever. And all the matches that I did have with these guys, to me, it was very platonic. I wasn't attracted to them in any sense. It was all very friendly. At some point, I met up once with someone, a gay man, and just my soul left my body when I met him, because, like, number one, I'm not a gay man. Not a gay man. And number two, he wasn't what I was expecting, like, in his demeanor and how he carried himself. I wasn't expecting that at all. And I think one of his photos were, like, very distant anyway, so I didn't really know exactly what he looked like. So I was like, oof, not, wasn't expecting that. Number three, he was clearly he definitely wanted something just more sexual, and not into that. I just wasn't into it. Makes sense. Now finally, outside of departing the dating world of being trans, I wanted to address something that some people just kind of think of when it's like, oh, you're a man, so you're privileged. You get to have more of this, and as a woman, you have less of that. Was I treated with more respect? No, I wasn't treated with any more respect, because just because I was perceived as male wasn't like automatically, oh, you've earned this, or not even earned. It's just, this is your birthright. Like, no, I didn't experience that. Walking in the dead of night, it's like, yeah, I felt a teensy bit safer, but I was also a teenager, and I didn't care. And I was just like, I'm gonna be rebellious because my mom wants me to be at curfew, be home by curfew. But so I didn't care. But there is this threat of I could be mugged. I could be beaten up for whatever reason, depending on, what sketchy area I'm in. I didn't live anywhere sketchy, so I wasn't afraid of that. It's not like, at least I don't remember, I don't think anybody, like, listened to me more just because I had, like, a presentation of masculinity, It was like, I mean, I'm generally a very quiet person in general, and man or woman, if you're quiet, nobody's really going to pay attention to you, so just because I was perceived as male doesn't mean, like, I spoke up and people are like, oh, tell me more. You have the voice, you have the authority. Like, no, that didn't happen. But what more did I have in the pie of being male? I was definitely more lonely because, like I said before, it was like when I was presenting as and perceived as feminine, female, more women would come up to me. They would smile at me more. They would flirt more. They would, just pay more attention to me. But as a guy, it was just like barren. Nobody came up to me, so that, makes some people kind of lonely, so it makes sense. I know I definitely need to, like, really extend myself and put myself out there to really be noticed way more. Whereas, as a woman, it was just like, I could just exist and then be noticed. This probably doesn't fit what I was saying just before, but both men and women didn't and don't generally readily behave cordially toward other men because another man is seen as a threat. Like, if a woman smiles at a man, uh, he's gonna detect it as, interest, and so he might pursue when he's unwanted. Whereas if a woman smiles at another woman, there isn't very likely going to be that same approach or threat, excuse me. In contrast to that, as a trans guy, women, in a sense, avoided me, and while men were friendlier because they saw me as gay, they avoided me too. Makes sense. Being trans, I found, had many, many disadvantages, uh, especially when you act like a feminine trans man, like I was. And that was my experience with that. What do I miss about being seen as male and being on testosterone? I mean, I think everybody could unanimously agree, hooray, no periods. That was nice. And my mood was definitely a lot more stable, which was very nice. Not saying I have a mood disorder, but it's just the, estrogen hormonal changes like that. It's just a natural thing. That's just what happens. I don't miss this as much as I had at the time, but while I was on testosterone, I didn't worry about stuff nearly as much. Now I didn't tend to worry about more things. Um, Speaking of mood, my depression was on testosterone more numb, although it's hard to describe really. Whereas on estrogen, it was more like very emotionally dense. It's hard to describe that one because I'm not actively going through it, but I just know that there was a difference. And I also liked how I could ignore some of my feelings more frequently and more easily than on estrogen. That was kind of nice, but it's whatever, It is what it is. One of the things I really miss the most, though, is how easily accepted I had been when approaching other guys, platonically. It was just way more easy, and what's the word? There was more camaraderie, I guess, and that was easy. It was easy to be friends with guys, a lot, way more easier. Now as a girl, it's like, it's a little bit more strained, a little bit different. It also depends on the guy, obviously, but it's a little bit more strained. And so lastly, in contrast to all of that, what do I like about being and presenting as a female and a woman is that I like that I can freely express my sensitivities without anyone needing to call me gay or effeminate or need to like size me up or whatever. Like, it's just, it's more freeing. I definitely do enjoy more compliments from other people, especially women. More likely women are going to compliment me in some way, and I could compliment them without making it weird. Whereas as a trans guy, like, none of that ever happened. And just guys generally don't get compliments that much. So it's just, that's kind of nice. That's just one little plus. And I definitely don't have to worry about things adding up, if you know what I mean. Like, what's the saying? You get what you see. So I don't have to worry about like hiding anything anymore, and I don't have to think about, oh, what are they gonna think when I tell them that I'm this and not what you're actually expecting, I don't have to worry about that. And then and with that, it's like, I don't need to find someone very, very specific. There's the margin of finding, dates is way easier this way. And I like not being scrutinized. It's like someone just going like, huh, what gender is this person? Like, that doesn't happen to me anymore, which is really nice. No more being on edge anymore, so that's really good. I feel more confident dating than like on dating apps because obviously as a female and looking quite obviously feminine, I get more matches, or not just matches, but more likes, which is a nice confidence boost. Whereas presenting as trans online, it was just like none at all. Maybe one or two, but it was very exceptionally rare. Lastly, and this is very general terms, not all people are like this, and not all guys are like this, but men tend to be like more soft in a way, as a trans man, it was like if I did something, it would be like, you didn't do it right, or there was something more critical about what I did. But like as a woman, I'm like an exception to a rule of whatever that rule is. Like I was saying with some of my previous examples, it's easier. It's easier this way, and that's it. I've exhausted my notes. So, yeah, I wanted to add that as for this channel, I want to pretty much record like maybe every Tuesday or something. Maybe Tuesday, Sunday, and then try to get them out on Wednesday. Not Wednesday, maybe Thursday, but I'm gonna at least try to get one out, get a video out once every week. So there's that. Yeah, and I definitely want to more focus on issues in this department and how to help people with this. This is just something I wanted to talk about. Kind of estranged from the other stuff, but yeah, whatever. Anyway, so yes, I will see you next week.